Good evening, everybody. At 6:30, we're going to call the public hearing to order. The purpose of the public hearing is to citizen comments on pest control. Is the power button on there? That sounds better. Okay. Thank you. The purpose of this public hearing is for Critter Properties LLC. Applicant is requesting approval of rezoning from R2 Single Family Residential District to C1 Central Business District for the property located at 410 East College Street. We're going to make a public announcement that this public hearing will be moved to the October 16th meeting. So there's been some changes in their development plan, so the public hearing will be held on October 16th. And unless there's anyone here to specifically speak, we're going to go ahead and close the meeting, the public hearing at this point. Okay, with that, I will begin our September meeting of the Board of Alderman. We have a quorum. If you'll please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing for an invocation by Pastor Weston.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father, I ask that you would give wisdom to this council tonight. Lord, those who have need that come before this council, Lord, you give an answer, a solution through the wisdom of this council. Father, we pray for our first responders here in the city of Troy. You would protect them, Lord, you would bless them, and that your peace would rest upon this city and this council, or this county rather. And it is in the resurrected one's name we pray, Jesus Christ. And everyone said together, Amen.
Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda. I would like to remove the minutes from last month's meeting and also item 3C. Anything anyone else has to remove, please say so now.
I remove 7G, H, and I.
7G, H, and I. Okay, if that's all, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exceptions of those items that have been removed.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Yes.
Alderman Jones?
Yes.
Alderman Dewar?
Yes.
Alderman Norman?
Yes.
Alderman Porter?
Yes.
Alderman Leichert?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, citizen comments. First up, I have Mr. Chris Schieffer, Bridge of Hope and Catholic Charities.
All right, thank you guys for listening to our mission and listening a little bit about where we're at, and I want to give you an update on the building and our finances. So if any of you have been on Highway H, you'll see there's a lot of improvements going on. Bridge of Hope has its walls up. We will start to put on trusses this week, so we're on our way. There's also a foundation right next door that's for the Oasis Women's Center. So everybody knows about Oasis, and there's also a foundation for Calvary Church, which is building a new school. So a lot of good things, a lot of good things for the community. Just a little bit about where we are in our budget. Bridge of Hope is very excited about where we are, but we still have a ways to go. We started out at 1.76 million is what we needed to raise. We have raised 1.48, so that we're still about 276,000 that we need to raise for next year. We do have several donors that are still contemplating helping us out, and we feel like we're going to be over our budget goals. But again, I would ask that you guys would consider helping us with our mission. We feel like Bridge of Hope is going to help the budgets of your police, your departments of recreation, the cleanup of trash, a lot of different things that the homeless community creates expenses for in the community. So we know that Bridge of Hope will not completely take all of those folks off the streets. It's not going to keep all the people off of the overpasses. But it is going to help the people that want to be helped, and we're going to try to help them find jobs, housing, etc. So that's our mission. So kind of consider helping us if you can with some funding. The other things that we'd like to talk about is the Troy Housing Development. Bridge of Hope is partnering with Troy Housing Development. We are not a part of it, but we are definitely supporting it. Developing affordable housing was the third ring of what our mission was when we developed Bridge of Hope. First, we were going to develop a plan. Secondly, we were going to get a building. And third, we were going to develop affordable housing. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan Colbert, and he's going to speak just a second about that.
Good evening, and thank you for taking your time to listen to us here as we talk about Bridge of Hope. As Chris mentioned, the next logical step, once we start serving people, the goal is to take them to the next level. The next level is to be housed independently. Our plan is to not have people in the shelter for long term. They come in with a program designed to get them squared away with the tools that they need to gain employment and to get affordable housing. The affordable housing is where we run into problems because rents in the area, when considered against wages have increased over the years, but still it's hard for a family, especially if they have small children, to pay $1,500 or $1,800 a month. So the plan for that is where, and I'll introduce to you Mr. Kevin Buchek, who is with the Oakland Group in Roanoke Construction. They're working, it's a three-pronged effort, Oakland Group, Catholic Charities, and Bridge of Hope, to put this Troy Housing Development is its generic name at the moment, but there will be a set aside there for a certain number of units that are available to us. So once we get people employed and up on their feet, we have a place to take them. We don't have to kick them right back on the street trying to figure out how they can pay $1,500 a month rent. So Mr. Buchek will be able to answer further any questions you might have about that. So without further ado, Mr. Kevin Buchek.
Good evening, folks. I'm Kevin Buchek, as he mentioned, of Oakland Group and Roanoke Construction, and we're one of the partners in the Troy Housing Development. And we're here tonight seeking two things, and I see we have three on the agenda. The third is a letter of support from the council, which we had not requested, but that would be great to supplement our application. The two things we are requesting is a zoning letter, which is not to say that the zoning will be approved. It's just a letter indicating what the process is to rezone the parcel. And the second item is a letter of consistency with your comprehensive land use plan, which I believe our project is, based on my reading of the plan. I know it's an old plan, but it's the only plan we've got. The housing property project that we're proposing is a 60-unit development deal. It's a mixed income development, meaning folks can live there anywhere from 30% area median income all the way up to unrestricted market rate units. However, even our market rate units are lower priced than most other market rate units in the area. And also what's different about our housing is we will have a supportive service coordinator on site 20 hours a week to work with the population, specifically the population from Bridge of Hope, but also we'll be providing services to.
So if any of you have been on Highway H, you'll see there's a lot of improvements going on. Bridge of Hope has its walls up. We will start to put on trusses this week, so we're on our way. There's also a foundation right next door that's for the Oasis Women's Center. So everybody knows about Oasis, and there's also a foundation for Calvary Church, which is building a new school. So a lot of good things, a lot of good things for the community. Just a little bit about where we are in our budget. Bridge of Hope is very excited about where we are, but we still have a ways to go. We started out at $1.76 million is what we needed to raise. We have raised 1.48, so that we're still about $276,000 that we need to raise for next year. We do have several donors that are still contemplating helping us out, and we feel like we're going to be over our budget goals. But again, I would ask that you guys would consider helping us with our mission. We feel like Bridge of Hope is going to help the budgets of your police, your departments of recreation, the cleanup of trash, a lot of different things that the homeless community creates expenses for in the community. So we know that Bridge of Hope will not completely take all of those folks off the streets. It's not going to keep all the people off of the overpasses. But it is going to help the people that want to be helped, and we're going to try to help them find jobs, housing, etc. So that's our mission. So kind of consider helping us if you can with some funding. The other things that we'd like to talk about is the Troy Housing Development. Bridge of Hope is partnering with Troy Housing Development. We are not a part of it, but we are definitely supporting it. Developing affordable housing was the third ring of what our mission was when we developed Bridge of Hope. First, we were going to develop a plan. Secondly, we were going to get a building. And third, we were going to develop affordable housing. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan Colbert, and he's going to speak just a second about that.
Good evening, and thank you for taking your time to listen to us here as we talk about Bridge of Hope. As Chris mentioned, the next logical step, once we start serving people, the goal is to take them to the next level, and the next level is to be housed independently. Our plan is to not have people in the shelter for long term. They come in with a program designed to get them squared away with the tools that they need to gain employment and to get affordable housing. The affordable housing is where we run into problems because rents in the area, when considered against wages have increased over the years, but still it's hard for a family, especially if they have small children, to pay $1,500 or $1,800 a month. So the plan for that is where, and I'll introduce to you Mr. Kevin Buchek, who is with the Oakland Group in Roanoke Construction. They're working, it's a three-pronged effort, Oakland Group, Catholic Charities, and Bridge of Hope, to put this Troy Housing Development is its generic name at the moment, but there will be a set aside there for a certain number of units that are available to us. So once we get people employed and up on their feet, we have a place to take them. We don't have to kick them right back on the street trying to figure out how they can pay $1,500 a month rent. So Mr. Buchek will be able to answer further any questions you might have about that. So without further ado, Mr. Kevin Buchek.
Good evening, folks. I'm Kevin Buchek, as he mentioned, of Oakland Group and Roanoke Construction, and we're one of the partners in the Troy Housing Development. And we're here tonight seeking two things, and I see we have three on the agenda. The third is a letter of support from the council, which we had not requested, but that would be great to supplement our application. The two things we are requesting is a zoning letter, which is not to say that the zoning will be approved. It's just a letter indicating what the process is to rezone the parcel. And the second item is a letter of consistency with your comprehensive land use plan, which I believe our project is, based on my reading of the plan. I know it's an old plan, but it's the only plan we've got. The housing property project that we're proposing is a 60-unit development deal. It's a mixed income development, meaning folks can live there anywhere from 30% area median income all the way up to unrestricted market rate units. However, even our market rate units are lower priced than most other market rate units in the area. And also what's different about our housing is we will have a supportive service coordinator on site 20 hours a week to work with the population, specifically the population from Bridge of Hope, but also we'll be providing services to all of our residents. Any questions about these two letters or the development?
We do have on the agenda as well tonight a letter of support from the mayor.
Yes,
So,
I saw
okay.
that as well. That would be great.
So there'll be three items. Yeah. So you have a lengthy application process. I suppose.
Yes, so what happens is we apply this Friday, the 22nd, with MHDC, that's the Missouri Housing Development Commission, for funding. We've secured some of the financing. We're trying to get the remainder from MHDC. We'll apply this Friday. We'll hear mid-December. If we're successful in that application, then we'll be coming back before this council many times to discuss the planning, the parking, kind of all those things. So it's a long process. It's about a year process after allocation. So if we're awarded, we probably wouldn't be breaking ground on the property until about this time next year, maybe end of next year.
Now, these are low-income housing tax credits, is that true?
That's correct. That's one of the sources that we're seeking, yes.
And how does that work with people that aren't, that are, you know, above or at median income?
So what that does is it restricts at least 40% of the units in the property to people at or below 60% of area median income. So those would be folks making between $45,000 and $62,000 per household.
Okay. So there's certain segments of it.
So certain segments are, we've got some units set aside for people at or below 30% AMI. That's 15% of the units, and then we've got at least 10% of the units set aside for unrestricted, that anybody can live there, regardless of income. And the idea is that folks would move into the development and maybe move up in their economics, but not have to move.
Very good.
Where was the location again?
We've got an option to purchase the land at 47 West Highway 47, just west of the intersection of Ellis and 47.
Actually, it'd be right across from the entrance to the Methodist Church on 47.
That's correct. Right now, it's about 10 acres of vacant land there.
And how many units?
60, now that's way more land than you need for 60 units, obviously. Our hope is that this first development is very successful and fills up immediately and has a wait list, which I'm sure it will. Every one of our developments we've built throughout the Midwest has a wait list immediately after construction, usually before we finish construction. There's a huge demand for affordable and mixed income housing, kind of in every community across the country. But the hope is maybe there'd be opportunity to do future phases, perhaps some senior housing there as well.
Any feedback on the neighbors backing behind that?
Not so far. We'll obviously have some public hearings with the zoning requests, so we'll be hearing from them during those, I'm sure.
Who's gonna be overseeing the property itself after the construction?
So we'll be involved, myself, and you will have my cell phone number. So I'm not an out-of-towner. I'm a little far away. I live in North St. Louis. But you'll have my cell phone number, and if there's ever an issue with anybody there, you can call me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The Bridge of Hope folks will be involved, and the Catholic Charities folks will be involved. We'll have an on-site property manager there Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week, in addition to the service coordinator.
What's it zoned now to be?
It's R1 single-family residential.
And you're wanting to take it to R3 multi?
Correct.
And that backs up to all of the older houses in that neighborhood, correct? On the left
Correct.
side of 47?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, and our intent would be to,
And
there's
you
a,
haven't heard from any of those neighbors yet, or reached out to them to find out how they're gonna feel about 60 units in their backyard?
not yet, no. And there is a large kind of wooded buffer that we intend to leave between our development and those houses as well.
I would be concerned if 60 units went in my backyard.
Anybody else have any questions? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for your time, appreciate it.
You bet.
Yeah, I have a few more remarks in closing for Bridge of Hope. So Bridge of Hope is really excited about this, and you guys need to realize that the development is not just going to be a standalone development. They're going to have on-site people that are going to work with our folks to help them integrate back into the community. What I mean by that is they're going to have people that will work with their finances, make sure they know how to pay their rent, how to budget, how to do their checkbook. They're going to work with us. We're going to have finance people at Bridge of Hope that's going to start that process, but they're going to have on-site folks that are going to do that. There's not any other places in the area that do that. I understand the concerns about it being in the backyard, but where, you know, we have to figure out someplace. The other thing is that I just want to make everyone aware that Calvary, Oasis, and Bridge of Hope is going to be in need of sewer and water, and the ongoing conflict between Public Water and Sewer District Number 1 and the city may need to be resolved. We hope it can be. Oasis already tried to apply for a sewer permit to build a lagoon, which would not be very nice, or to build a sewer system, which would not be very nice on their lot either, and they were refused because they're too close to an existing sewer line. So that's just some concerns that we have, and we hope that that can be resolved in the near future. So thank you.
Who refused that?
Who refused them?
The sewer?
The health department.
Okay.
Because according to their ordinances, if you're within so many feet of a public utility sewer line, you can't put in a sewer system.
And respectfully, the reason I'm asking these things is I understand that you need these places for these folks to go, but those folks already live here. They're our residents, they're our citizens. And we are here elected by them, for them, and so we have to be the voice for them.
Right, and I think
So
that...
I think there's a genuine concern, and I think that their voices need to be heard and not overruled by us saying, yes, do this.
Right, and I think they will be at the public hearing.
But if we're
not
gonna,
asking...
as a board, give our go for it, we're taking that away from them without having their opinion.
I don't think so, Rachel. All we're asking for today is you're not approving anything.
But we're giving support without hearing their opinions.
I don't think you're approving anything, though.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we are giving our support. You're asking for our support without hearing from our citizens that have lived here,
Right.
that have elected us, that we are here by them.
I agree. I understand, and I'd feel the same way. I'd want to have my voice heard, and their voice will be heard. You might not be aware of it, but there are homeless people living in that wooded area behind their houses right now. Right now, tents.
I'm sure there are.
And this would be a lot better than that. This is going to be a brick building. It's going to be first class. It's going to really look nice. Quite different than a lot of other things that could go with that same property. So, anyway.
Kevin, did you have anything you want to address about what we're really wanting today?
Yeah, maybe just for clarification, I'd be okay, ma'am, if we took the letter of support off the agenda and just had those other two letters, which are really cursory. They're not approving anything. They're not suggesting that you're behind the project. It's just saying, here's our zoning process.
Doesn't your letter of support mean your application has to be in by September 25th, right?
So the application goes in this Friday. Even if you were to approve a letter of support in future months, MHCC would take that. So you could send a letter of support in to supplement our application anytime between now and around December 15th, usually when they make the awards.
Okay.
So I'd be totally comfortable if we took that one off the agenda and just focus on the other two. Those are the pieces we really need.
The
So I
city's
appreciate that.
support is not to an address, is that correct?
Yeah, the letter of support is to help them with the application of the tax credits. You know, none of the plans for the building will be even thought about until they have the zoning change, which would involve public hearings, and, you know, that would give all the residents a chance to review what's going to happen there. So, yeah, this is, just trying to help them get to the process so that they can apply for that zoning change. They don't want to get the zoning change, make a commitment to buy, and then not get the funding.
Correct. And so, yes, if we are awarded funding, we'll be back before this board and before your building commission, going through plans, and we'll take feedback from the public about what the building should look like, about brick versus hardy siding, and all those types of things. So there'll be a lot of opportunity for feedback in the coming months. Thank you.
Gary moved. There it is. Gary moved. All right, next up I have Susan Oster. Susan?
Yep. Sorry, pardon me. Excuse me, I'm so sorry about that.
It's all right.
Hello, how's everybody doing this evening?
Good.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I just wanted to come in and check and see how everything is going with our breed-specific legislation and revising the ordinance to the dangerous dog or vicious dog ordinance that was agreed upon at our last Alderman meeting. Because when I went to check the agenda, I did not see it on there like we all thought that was going to be happening, so I was just kind of a little, I don't know, taken back or concerned, and maybe just wondering what the process was with that.
So we had 2 aldermen that sponsored that, and they're working on it. I don't know
Okay.
if they want to give updates on where they're at.
Yeah.
Be on next month's agenda.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. Awesome. All right, so that's why I was here. Thank you guys so much. Good thing. My handy dandy book, if anybody needs any info, is in there too.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. You have a great evening.
You too. Okay, next up I have Michael Engelmeyer.
How's council doing this evening? I was just here, I believe we had talked to one of the aldermen, and I'm just here at making sure that I think y'all having a closed meeting today for our office building on, my Realty on 140 East Main Street. The East Cherry project has caused us some issues, water issues. I believe Mr. Ron come out there and looked at it one day. We have reached out to the people that was doing the project, and we've reached out to the city twice. I think my wife reached out to Rachel once prior to this, and we haven't really got much back from it. So we have it finished now. The basement is finished. We have a full-fledged tenant down there. The guitar shop's down there. They're doing really well. But the last 2 big rains we've had has flooded our basement down there. So that caused major issues and concerns for me. And it comes from them doing the sidewalk, and the ramp to our building is actually higher than our door now. And it causes some of that. And we've been more than accommodating whenever y'all come to us to move the electric and do all that stuff back there in our gravel parking lot. And I feel that now we have an issue that's kind of been overlooked. So that's my concern. And I think y'all, the way I understand y'all doing this on a closed meeting afterwards, I just want to kind of give my 2 cents before for the meeting. So if anybody's got any questions, I'm more than happy to answer anything about it. But
What's the address of the location?
excuse me,
What's the address of that location?
it's 140 East Cherry Street. We left the basement sit for a year, make sure no water was getting in there prior to this. And once we did it, now we're having more issues. Now we've put the money into the basement, it's done. I'm concerned with that part. I'm concerned with the mold, the bigger issue later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Michael Accord.
Accardi.
Did I get it right?
Accardi.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I just said about the ATV ordinance wanting to be changed. I'll just give you a little background. I moved to Troy in 1993, and I wanted to live in the city because there were ordinances so the neighborhoods could prosper and people would want to live in the city. Ordinances are there for the good of the neighborhoods. I'm against allowing ATV side-by-sides, LCVs to use the city streets. They are for farms and for outside of the city limits. Yesterday, me and my wife were sitting on our patio, Shellbark, it's right across the way, and here come 3 ATVs blowing past the stop sign. And as the one got past the stop sign, he was doing a wheelie. This was a man in his 40s. I have video of that if anybody wants to see it. It's on my cameras on my house. This goes on constantly. It's a nuisance. And if for some reason it should pass, they should be held to the same laws as I am with my vehicles I use on the streets. Get a license plate with tags when they come due, like I have to do for my car. Get insurance, safety inspections, like we all have to do. Be required to wear a seatbelt. Follow the speed limit. I know a lot of cars speed, but they have license plates, which is needed for identification for accidents, speeding tickets, driving recklessly, etc. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next up I have Walter Wright.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Walt Wright. I live at 1001 Beaneman Lane. Some new faces since the last time I was in here about a year and a half ago. complaining about the road, ditching the road, they'll update on it. I spent about 10 hours and I pretty much got it flattened back out where the water can run across and not create a ditch. So on that, the other thing I'm here to talk about is right about that time the city started dumping yard waste out there. And at that time it wasn't a big problem. Last year, didn't notice anything. This year, it's getting pretty bad. I know it's hard to get you guys out there, so I brought this in if you want to kind of pass this down the line. That's kind of what it smells like in my house. And that's light. That's light. You know, I'm just wondering if what you guys are doing, I've been looking at some regulations and whether you guys got permits to do that or not. The stuff that I've read online is you gotta have a permit, a plan. I mean, you just can't literally dump your waste there. My other concern is, I'm out there a lot. This city creates a lot of yard waste, or something's coming from somewhere else, but when it's 6:30 in the morning on a Monday.
Sir, would you like to come back with the jury?
You don't want to keep it?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No desire.
Yeah.
I have my own at mine.
Huh? Yeah, well, this is 2-3 football fields from me. And it's really bad when it sits out of the road for a week or two before it's pushed into the woods. But 2 or 3 Monday mornings ago, there was a tandem axle truck, dump truck on the, or not dump truck, garbage truck that collects the trash, and a single axle that came in and dumped at 6:30 in the morning. The wife has seen one there after dark, a tandem axle dump. I didn't notice kind of anything last year smell-wise, but this year it's been pretty bad. And a lot of the times it happens when the tandem axles come in and dump. When they dump, you can see steam rising from the pile already, which means it's already cooked. You got compost, I'd imagine, at your house. Small one. It's already cooking when it comes out of the truck. So you know how long it's been in there. Is that all from the city of Troy? You know, but I'm building a new house, sitting out on my porch. Not something I really want to smell. And, I mean, we're going to speak ordinances, section 220.080, Troy City Ordinance, section B. It shall be unlawful for any person, firm, or corporation to accumulate or pile yard waste, solid waste, refuse, or rubbish, which may cause bad odors, unsanitary conditions, or fire hazards within the city limits. So I'm assuming that's city limits.
We'll look into it and see what's going on.
Okay, well, I'd like a response fairly quick.
I drove out there one day going to the sewer plant, and it seemed like an abundance of yard waste
There's a lot
for
there.
the city of Troy to accumulate.
There's a lot that gets done. I mean, and for you guys there, when my new house gets done, hopefully my Wi-Fi extender, I will have a 24/7 camera on the road. I mean, we've had multiple problems with people out there that's not supposed to be. We just removed a few not too long ago. They put up a new gate, which really didn't work because the new guy they just removed was setting up camp back there. So,
What's the address?
1001 Beeman Lane. It's the city sewer plant. Basically, me and them are the only ones back here. So if I notice, you know, I know what cars go in and out. I know who's supposed to be there and who's not. And, you know, so we get some of those. Some of them I handle. I called Jared on some. I called police on some, you know, to get them out. But, you know, that's kind of controllable. But, I mean, this is my big concern. And I was in here a year and a half ago on the road, and basically I fixed it. It was supposed to be addressed, I would think, a year and a half ago. But, you know, city's owned that property for over 20 years, and for 20 years the water's ran across the river. So I don't have a whole lot of confidence of getting a response from that. So, I mean, I'll have something within a week, or I'll start calling around and seeing what I can do about it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Did you have another one, Tanya?
I do have one more.
Oh, I saw that.
And it's from reception.
Okay, you have Diane Sprock.
Hi, I'm new to this, so I did not turn it in earlier, so sorry about that. I am one of the side-by-side drivers. I will admit, I take care of people of all ages, all disabilities, people who's on hospice. For them to have a bucket list or just want to go for a ride, you would not believe the smiles that those things put on their faces. I say if everybody is following any rule, any law of like any other driver would be doing, they would get a ticket for what they're not doing or what they are doing wrong. I take my little preschooler to school some days. They had a grandparents' day. It was like, show off, you know, do this, do that. I don't understand why, yes, I get where he's coming from. They were loud. It's no louder than a motorcycle. It's no louder than half of these cars I've heard. As long as they stop at every stop sign, don't do wheelies down the street. I personally don't even drive on the main highways. If we could even stick with the no numbers, you know, that's what a lot of people I hear do. You know, you could do ABCs, all highways in letters, to where you're not on Highway 61. You are not on Highway 47. If anybody has any questions, I will try to answer my best. The other comment I had, I didn't even know that this was happening, and that is to do with the building. I do not live there, so it personally don't pertain to me. But if that was me living right behind there, I would have thought they would have already handed out personal letters saying, hey, would you like to, you know, come to this meeting? I don't know why that was not done. If I was a company and I was building or doing the right thing, that's what I would have done. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do
Oh,
you need to step back to approve the minutes?
sorry.
The minutes.
I'm gonna do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, next up we have the minutes. We pulled off the agenda. You have a revised copy there in front of you. Tanya was going through and found a mistake on page 5. She'd like to get that remedied. If you look over, it's highlighted. This is a revised draft. A little confusion about how it was, motion was made, and just, you can compare that to what's in your regular minutes, but look that over, and then we'll take a motion to approve the minutes as revised, if everyone's in agreement.
I'll make a motion to approve the revised draft of the minutes.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll second.
Alderman Jones seconded already.
Alderman Dooner,
Yes.
Alderman Jones.
Yes.
Alderman Lyford,
Yes.
Alderman Deacon,
Yes.
Alderman Norman,
Yes.
Alderman Horner.
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries.
Thank you. Sorry about getting those out of order. I should have done that before the citizens.
That's
Okay, 3C, I pulled this one off because Jared and Greg are here to present their annual report. So I'll let Jared do that now.
Hello, board. So every year we have to give this annual report for the fiscal year ending June 30th each year. This big packet here, this big binder, this is your annual report for the whole year. So it could take 2 hours to go through this thing, so we're not going to do that. So at a high level, I just kind of highlighted some of the major points from each section in this annual report, and then we can just discuss it real quick, go over it. If you have any questions, like I said, you're probably not going to take in half of what I'm telling you tonight. If you see something you want to ask me about, you can call me anytime. Each of you have my cell phone number. So starting off, as we always do, with safety. Turn here to our first page, section 1. For safety, for the 5th year in a row, no lost time accidents to report. We were 100% complete on all our safety training for the year. Most of our safety training took place at the plant with corporate safety coming on site to include your confined space training, lockout, tagouts, CPRs, QEW, noise and sound surveys, etc. A lot of that was done on site through our corporate safety. All of our emergency action plans were updated and everything's on file at the plant. If you guys ever have a question about any of our emergency action plans or anything to do with safety, that stuff is on file in my office. You're more than welcome anytime to walk in and say, I want to see it. One big thing we had to do this year, ANSI changed up their standards on first aid kits. So we had to follow OSHA guidelines, being a private company, and so we had to update and upgrade all of our first aid kits and safety cabinets because now ANSI this year requires that we have a foil blanket. I guess if we get cold outside, we're supposed to use the foil blanket. So we updated that, and if you look in the safety section, you can see the new cabinets that we purchased. Some of the on-site training that we did with CPR and such. Over to the side here, I show our TRIR rates and our DART rates, which is our company versus the industry average. You see we rank pretty well nationwide with safety. We take it very serious. Moving on to our next section, compliance. For the 5th year in a row, we had 0 samples that were out of compliance with the state DNR. That was a major achievement. I know some of you weren't here when we first took over, but that is a major deal from 5 years ago. There were some major issues. I see they're shaking their heads. So for 0 out of compliance samples this year, another great big achievement. DMRQA, I know you don't have a clue what that means. Basically, the state and the federal EPA test our in-house lab against, they'll send us blank samples and we have to test these blank samples to test our equipment in our lab. Quality control, quality assurance. And we passed with 100% grade again this year for our in-house lab. Another big achievement. The one big thing we're trying to do this year, what we are going to do within the next probably 30 to 45 days, we're going to close out that old existing operating permit from Highway 47. We had a couple years to do it and we're getting to that point. We've got one more big sludge holding tank that has to come down. We have to actually demo it. It's got like a foot of sludge in it. We've been working to pump that thing down, haul it over to the other plant, lay and apply. We've got like a foot in it, so we're gonna take a vac truck now, finish that off, and then we'll bulldoze that thing in, and then that is it for that site. We've tore down all the brick buildings, the labs are down, EQ tanks filled in, everything that was required by the state. So we're gonna finish that up right away. Also this month, we will be applying for our new operating permit renewal, Linda knows about, and that will take effect in March of 2024, so about 6 months in advance. So we'll be doing that by the end of this month. And we will oversee and make sure that gets completed on time. Moving on to your next section, the wastewater ops. Trash is still a major problem coming into the plant. How to fix it, I don't know. We've educated the public. We put numerous things on our social media. We've had handouts. We've had everything. We have a lot of problems with the baby whites coming through still. They just clog up pumps and tear stuff up. But education, I mean, stuff still comes to us. We're filling up probably 3 big dumpsters a week at the plant out there. Meridian comes, takes it, hauls it off. So the trash is just unreal. If you look in your picture in your handout, that is a return pump that's in the basement, and it's just wads of hair and rags and wipes that come out of those pumps. And that's probably twice a week that we're having to clean them out. Of what the bar screen is just, I mean, it can only do so much. It's that much coming in. Also, we are still using and utilizing the asset maintenance. We're tracking all of our maintenance in Utility Cloud. That's our program that we use to track all of our maintenance records, work orders, and such. And with the maintenance asset management, you're tracking all of the life of your equipment, basically. And that way we can put together a capital plan as far as all your new equipment, you know, lifetime. This pump's expected to last another 14 years. Then we can start planning for the future with this new asset management plan that we've been using. Another big project going on right now at the plant is the new decant project. This thing is anticipated to be completed at the end of this month. So but we're pushing it now. I have a feeling it's going to be into the first part of October, but that's going to be huge for that plant. That was taken out whenever the project was first awarded for the new treatment plant 2 years ago, but now we're able to fund it and it's about to be completed. So basically what that's going to do is allow us to make the treatment process more efficient, allowing our operators to decant more clear water back into the system. Thus it lowers the volume of sludge to be land applied during the year. We just have more control of the biosolids and the sludge that we're handling and moving. It's a cost-saving measure. You can see, if you're going through your book here with me, we'll just move on to lift stations. You can read this stuff at night. If you have something, call me. I promise I'll answer for you. Lift stations. We're still doing our weekly inspection. Guys are going to each lift station every week, entering all the data from your pumps, your pump hours, vibration testings. We're entering all that in the utility cloud system. Through the summer, spraying weeds, picking up trash, you name it. Some of the major events that happened this year at the lift station, we did have a vandalism at the Whitetail lift station. We got a call one night, a guy said his basement was flooding. We went out there, we had found that the vinyl fence had been torn in and somebody had come in. It turned out to be some kids that had cut the wires to our generator, pulled down a knife switch, killed the power, so we didn't have any way to call out emergency calls, anything. Lift station filled up, flooded 2 homes. Ended up, police were called, all that good stuff. So that was a major event through the year. A few other things we have going on. We have added a manual bar screen at the Highway 47 lift station. So instead of all that trash going to 47 and then being pumped to the southeast plant, we're trying to pick up a lot of that trash at 47. So if you look in your picture here, that is the new bar screen. Operators are going out there probably twice a week and they're having to pull that screen out of the hole with a generator. We fire and plug in, and then we clean the manual bar screen by hand. And that is helping at the Troy Southeast plant, picking it up there and it's not having to make its way all the way down. Another big project we had this year, Ronnie tell you, we worked on is the Oaks. Up there by the golf course, we had to add in some storage tanks. There's some development going on in one of the old golf courses, so that was a fix for that. If there's any future development in that area, we're gonna have to do some upgrades, but for the time now, that will suffice for handling what extra flow is coming from the new apartments going into the old golf course. We also started the new SCADA project at all the lift stations this year. We had enough funding to start with the Whitetail and the Wingate lift station. Those are kind of our mission critical lift stations. Like when Whitetail goes down, when something was to happen, you've got about a half hour to 45 minutes before stuff starts backing up and going into homes and doing things that we don't want to do. So with the SCADA project, the guys are able to come in, they can see it on their phone, alarms went off, they can actually turn pumps on manually, do things remote access, and that saves that time getting on site. So it's a huge factor, and that's something we've started on now. In fact, the polling master that handles all the radio frequencies and all that's already been installed at the plant. So next steps are getting started with Whitetail and Wingate. The last thing from the lift stations that I want to say we're kind of proud of, but it was in our plans to do and we took over. We have now, after 5 years, been able to budget and plan and completely have spare pumps for each 12 lift stations in town. When we first took over, there was some that only had maybe only one of the 2 pumps running in the hole, to where now we have 2 functional repaired pumps at each lift station, plus a spare on site at the plant. So that's a big deal. When some of these pumps cost $30,000 and $40,000, it takes several years, but with budgeting and planning, we now have a spare for each lift station site. Moving on to maintenance, I did cover it once about the asset management. We're maintenance tracking everything in utility cloud for all of our fleet and our equipment. All equipment is maintained to manufacturer's recommendations. Last year, just alone in contract year 5, we completed over 1,600 work orders. That's huge. Every day, that's a list that's getting sent out to each operator. He's going on site and completing them. And that way, when it gets 10, 15 years down the road, we can go back in and access the stuff and say, okay, 10 years ago on this date, they did this to this pump, and it lines out exactly everything to a T of what is done. That's nice to have to track for data. We did add 2 new trucks to the fleet this year. We replaced our crane truck finally. After 2 years, we got it in, and then we also added 1 crew truck for the lift stations, for the guys to get around to the lift stations. Some of the major items include servicing of all the vehicles, tractors, mowers, blowers, plant operations equipment, servicing all the generators, brush hogging around the fields, mowing and spraying the treatment plant and all 12 lift stations. And then, of course, this year we had to replace the bar on the back of the old Terragator. So that was a maintenance item, so I listed on there. One thing with Woodard and Kern, if you look in our contract, we list out every single dollar we spent on maintenance repairs. When you get home later, you can go through that yourself. It's page after page, but we list out every dime we spent. You show a maintenance history report, shows you all 1,600 work orders, how they were allotted, and how we completed them. Moving on to land application. So contract year 5, we land applied over 425,000 gallons of sludge on the fields out there. It's a lot. Probably towards the end of our season, the application season, our old Terragator did break down. So Jeff named it. He said, it's going to happen. I'm telling you, we found one at the surplus. Let's get it because we don't know what the other one's going to do. We had it probably a week and the old one broke down in the field. So we had to get a big tractor, 100-horse tractor, and we had to pull it out of the field. And we had to bring it up and do some work to the rear end. But we also had the new one that we could keep running. So one thing nice about the new Terragator, it does do both surface and subsurface application. So kind of nice. But we do have 2 running Terragators now, so that's huge. Section 7, financial report. So this is the one that only line you want to look at is how we ended for the year. So at the end of the year, we were able to make all necessary repairs, perform our routine maintenance, and purchase additional safety items, all while staying within the yearly operating budget. So at the end of the year, there was $1,843 left over. That was a check written back to the city. Linda's already received that check and put it in her account. I mean the city's account. Staffing and support. So on the next page, these are the 4 operators that run the treatment plant and the 12 lift stations in town. We've got Mike Rosen there on the left. Jordan Hayworth, who's been with us since the beginning, about 5 years. Same way with Mike, we brought him off the city of Troy. Of course, myself, and then the new guy there on the end, Dylan Roberts, we brought him in from, he actually came from PWSD. We stole him from another project, but he had lift station experience, and he's also got a bunch of certificates in mechanics. He went to State Tech down in Lynn, very smart kid. So, in fact, we have him on assignment right now out in Portland, Oregon. He's working on a job out there. We sent him out there. So, saves you guys a little money with him not being here, but he's versatile and he's got the knowledge and they need him, so we sent him. We could handle it without him for this week. Okay, moving on to the next page where we'll end. Woodard and Kern is, we try to be very involved in the communities that we serve. We're not trying to pat ourselves on the back or anything here, but we just put a few things on here where you guys can see what we are doing in the community. We held our 3rd annual Stream Clean event. David Norman knows all about it. He comes to them and a few others and the mayor. And last year we cleaned up the Kiwanis Park. We had truckloads of trash that come out of that sucker. If you look at the picture underneath there, that's a couple of our engineers that I just love seeing down in that water working, not in the office. So that's why I put that one on there. That's Don Tall. He does a lot of work here with you guys. Up on the top right, you'll see we had some environmental science classes.
come for tours. This guy here, he actually just reached out to me last week. They're already planning on next spring coming, so we've already got 3 tours for next spring coming from the high school. And then down on the bottom, we've got our community garden that we just built this year. Just kind of a fly-by-night. We had this idea, and all the guys thought it'd be a great idea. We get so many hours each year for volunteer hours, so it's not like you guys are paying for it. We're doing this all on volunteer time, but everything we grew in this garden, we donated to, I think, 3 different pantries here in town, so something cool we did. And then also, we were very active with the Lincoln County Youth Livestock Auction this year, so we spent more than I think we were supposed to, but that's okay. Is there any questions about the operating report or anything? And if, like I said, if you think of anything, call me anytime. It's all good.
I got one quick question. So you're saying, I know you guys mentioned that up in Whitetail and they're up there cleaning. So I mean, can you kind of pinpoint the trash from out there?
Are you talking about where now? Where all the trash is coming from?
You said you had set up.
The manual screen that we put at 47. Yeah, so we put a manual screen in at the old treatment plant on 47. You know how it's a lift station now? Well, there was nothing for a bar screen there. I would say in the future, we probably ought to be thinking about actually putting in an actual bar screen with the bar screen room. But that's future. For now, we spent the money, we built this manual thing. Guys are going out there twice a week, but the majority of our trash comes from Restaurant Row, believe it or not. It's not a community. Now, we get a lot of grease out in Wingate. Why? I don't know. But as far as trash, a lot of it comes from 47. And it makes its way to the old plant down there and goes through all those pumps. So we try to catch it before it goes through those pumps. So, anything else? See you next year.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to say thank you also. It's been a great partnership, and I think for both of us. And, you know, the work we've done together to get through the new plant, the old plant, and moving things forward, I think it's been good. So just want to say thank you. And Linda got her check. So, very good.
We appreciate it. Okay, can I get a motion to approve item 3C then?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Alderman Dooner,
Yes.
Alderman Norman,
Yes.
Alderman Jones,
Yes.
Alderman Leifer,
Yes.
Alderman Deacon,
Yes.
Alderman Horner.
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries.
Thank you, Tanya. Okay, bills. Bill number 1382 is ordinance, an ordinance authorizing execution of a vehicle lease. Second reading, bill number 1382 is ordinance, an ordinance authorizing execution of a vehicle lease agreement. Can I get a motion on this item?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions? Can you call the roll, please?
Alderman Leifer,
Yes.
Alderman Deacon,
Yes.
Alderman Norman,
Yes.
Alderman Horner,
Yes.
Alderman Jones,
Yes.
Alderman Dooner.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Bill number 1383 is ordinance, an ordinance amending chapter 115.180, appointed officers, amending chapter 115.180 to remove court clerk from and add city clerk to the list of appointed officers. The mayor shall appoint with the consent and approval of the majority of the board. Second reading, bill number 1383 is ordinance, an ordinance amending chapter 115.180, appointed officers, amending chapter 115.180 to remove court clerk from and add city clerk to the list of appointed officers. The mayor shall appoint with the consent and approval of the majority of the board. Can I get a motion?
So move.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions?
So the city clerk will be a appointed position, correct?
Yes. So to clarify, the state statute lists city clerk for a class 4 city. We did not have it in our ordinance that way. It did not say anything about the court clerk, which we did have. I'm not sure if it was that way as when we moved from class 3 to class 4, because there is a difference there in the state statute. This just lines up our ordinance with what the state requires. When they talk about appointed officers, they're still employees by the same standard, but there's a yearly appointment. They're classified a little bit differently. So we would have a swearing in on the last day, before the first day of July, each year.
And the court reporter would just be a hired position.
Yes, it's just like every other employee, yeah. Just removes them from the appointive portion, which, like I say, didn't line up with the state statute. Any other questions? Call the roll, please.
Alderman Eifert,
Yes.
Alderman Jones,
Yes.
Alderman Deacon,
Yes.
Alderman Dunier,
Yes.
Alderman Norman,
Yes.
Alderman Horner.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 3, bill number 1384 is ordinance. An ordinance amending chapter 340 miscellaneous driving rules and provides certain rules and definitions to allow the operation of low-speed vehicles and allow the operation of utility and recreational off-highway vehicles in the city of Troy. Second reading, bill number 1384 is ordinance. An ordinance amending chapter 340 miscellaneous driving rules to provide certain rules and definitions to allow the operation of low-speed vehicles and allow the operation of utility and recreational off-highway vehicles in the city of Troy. Can I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Yes. Let me just clarify, just so everybody knows, what type of vehicles are they considered? I mean, I read it, I looked at it, and so we're looking at the side-by-sides, understand, but not the little 4x4s. The little
Correct.
four-wheel ATVs, I guess.
That's,
Like a four-wheeler?
Yeah, just a four-wheeler.
Four-wheelers are not in.
Because that's ATV.
Correct.
Okay, and not golf carts.
that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at Brian because we reused, so.
Yeah, I looked at it, took pictures. So, okay, I just wanna, we're talking ATVs, the bigger ones.
UTVs.
UTVs, yeah.
And utility vehicles, off-highway recreational vehicles. So there's a lot of definitions in there that kind of clears up what is and isn't allowed. I have a couple of questions. One would be, I don't understand, again, the benefit to the citizens of Troy, how this enhances, our city in any way. I understand catering to certain people who want things, but really that's not the role of a legislative body. So I would caution you to think about that. These vehicles are classified as off-highway and off-road recreational vehicles, which I think by that very definition places them in a category where they're not intended to be used on the road. They're not designed, built, or intended to be in competition with motor vehicles. So I did do a little research. I've got the state statute here. I've also looked up a couple cities. Most cities don't allow these. Some cities do allow golf carts, but the vehicles as they're described in this ordinance are not legal in Wentzville, they're not legal in O'Fallon. Warrenton does have a caveat similar to this for them in their city, but as far as cities, surrounding us, our size, or really bigger, they're not allowed. So, any other questions, concerns, debate?
I guess one other question is, when will, if this is passed, when will the city be, I guess the police department be prepared to take on this?
Well, we haven't moved forward on ordering any kind of stickers or anything until we were already going to put out the money for anything. So I would say at least 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, we're going to have time to get these things ordered, get them in.
And do they have the approved inspection in place?
Yes, they have to be approved. They have to take them into a location, a gas station, get them checked with the brakes, lighting, that kind of thing. And they have to be a licensed driver.
I mean, the only thing I would say is,
any other ordinance, like the fireworks or anything, you know, this can be changed if it's abused, you know, just like anything, you know, so. I think it'd be, if it passes, just make sure that the citizens that do have them, that make sure that they, like, follow the rules, follow the regular laws of our city, the speed limit, you know, that's, we have kids walking down the street, we don't want to see 15-year-old kids driving these things. That's a big thing, is follow the laws, and if they don't follow the laws, they should be prosecuted. Just like anybody else who's getting a speeding ticket, or missing a stop sign, or anything else.
Anybody else? Okay, you want to call the roll, please?
Alderman Tanner?
Yes.
Alderman Deekemper?
Yes.
Alderman Jones?
Yes.
Alderman Langer?
Yes.
Alderman Horner?
Yes.
Alderman Norman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, 7G. Alderman Dooner.
I removed 7G, H, and I as a group because I had no idea exactly what it was. And I do find it interesting, it was on consent agenda and then we learned about it. So that's kind of odd to me. I would like to remove G and table that to another time after we have the citizens' comments and hear from our citizens that we represent.
But it's not specific to an address. We're simply supporting the housing development. They're trying to get funding.
But it says on here,
They could have a different location.
if you go to the mayor's letter in here, it has where it will be. And
You talking about this, the letterhead, it's on there, got from the Oakland group. Did anybody else read that letter,
Yes.
that act?
That was different.
no, it's the same one.
Is that the same thing?
It was from the Oakland group.
It's the same.
Yeah, it was the
I,
same. Yeah.
again, I didn't know what it was, and I didn't really understand because there wasn't a direct location. And again, it was on consent agenda, and had I not pulled it, none of us would even have an option to discuss any of this. And as an elected person, I have trouble putting my name behind something and giving and authorizing the mayor to say that, yes, the city supports this.
Can we take the address out of your letter?
Then you're gonna have to take the address out of the if you do that, you're gonna have to take the address out of rezoning, because it also gives the property to rezone.
The process of rezoning is public information. If the public is not in support of that, it's not going to go through planning and zoning. So that address wouldn't be affected. Is that correct?
Correct.
But the funding is
We're not
based on the
taking-
addresses
We're not taking
in
away
this.
the public information on the rezoning. We're not taking that away at all. We're simply saying to the Oakland group that we support their project.
It says on here from the city that has Dave's name on it, based on the plan submitted for this project, we see no reason that the zoning will not be approved by the city of Troy. It has the address already in there. So again, we're giving a blessing to it. We can't ask and give our blessing to a rezoning if you're removing the address. It's a backward way that we're supporting that project still, and we still have yet to hear from our citizens.
Okay, we need to deal with item G first. gotta go in order here. So, G is
They all
what-
go together.
No, they have to be dealt with individually.
I understand, but his argument is
Okay, so
cohesive to the whole thing.
item G would be the letter of support, which again is part of the process. They can't move forward without funding. And once if they can secure that, they can move forward with rezoning, which is where the process involves public input, the hearings,
I understand what you're saying is that's part of the process. The process should be our citizens first. They're here, they pay our taxes, they pay everyone's income here, they pay for everything that we are doing. We should hear from them before we give a blessing to them.
If you want to change the process, then that would be a whole different agenda item. I mean, this is the way.
I don't think it should have been on the consent agenda, respectfully, but here it is.
Things
Because
that
we
are,
should have had input into that. It's going to affect our entire town, it's affecting people.
anything that's on the consent, you pulled this off for
I
discussion.
did.
So that's why, so now's the time for discussion. So if the board wants input or a motion can be made, let's act on one item at a time. Item G, which
This
is the first
gentleman
item.
has said that they do not need the letter of support currently. I would make a motion to table the letter of support.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion on tabling this item G? Whenever you're ready, Tanya, take your time.
Alderman Dooner,
Yes.
Alderman Norman,
Yes.
Alderman Leifer,
No.
Alderman Deekemper,
No.
Alderman Jones,
Yes.
Alderman Horner.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Item H. Authorize building official to sign evidence of consistency with comprehensive plan for Troy housing development. Can we get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any conversation on this one?
My question would be is what year was the comprehensive plan based? What year is it from?
2012.
Okay, so it's very dated and we're basing rezoning on 12-year comprehensive dated plan.
Yeah, it's pretty big,
Yeah.
and that's why we're in the process of updating.
Right. I just feel like it's a very dated plan. Anything, I mean, even over 5 years will be dated for as quickly as our town is growing. So I don't think that there's good evidence to base it on something that's 12 years old.
Well, my issue is, I don't have an issue with the housing thing, because it's needed. But we ran into this problem on Boone Street, where they're gonna build apartments back there behind some people's houses, and now we got this big problem. And I don't know how long ago that was all approved, but it's in the past now, they can do what they want to.
Boone Street's totally different than what this project is.
It was rezoned at some time.
It was zoned 20 years ago for
Right.
multifamily. So there was no rezoning done, and that project met all our ordinances. Whether we like it or not, it met the ordinance.
But there wasn't no public input.
There was no need for a public hearing by state law or our ordinance. When you go through a rezoning from R1 to R3, then you have the public hearing requirements on both the state and the city level. And those meetings will not take place till November because we have to have the time frame to get the article into the paper and post the sign on the property. So it won't hit October. That's why in the one letter that finally goes before you guys on November 20th. So the only thing that would require a public hearing on this project would be the first planning and zoning meeting in November. By law.
Thanks for clarifying.
Any Any other comments on this one? Call the roll, please.
Alderman Warner,
Yes.
Alderman Jones,
Yes.
Alderman Lyford,
Yes.
Alderman Deacon,
Yes.
Alderman Dooner,
No.
Alderman Norman,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Item I, authorize building official to sign zoning classification letter for Troy Housing Development. Can you get a motion?
Make that motion?
Second.
Any conversation on this one? Debate, questions, anything?
Can you elaborate on that, Dave? What the process is that with our, on its side, authorizing building official to sign zoning certificate? Is that pretty much what
Well,
it's
it's
called?
just a letter saying they're going to go through our process. It doesn't approve it.
Okay.
And you guys gotta understand something too, and I hate to say this to you, Kevin, because you're probably gonna like this comment. Let's just say planning and zoning approves it, you guys can still vote it down.
Right.
You gotta have a legal justification for doing that, but you can vote it down. In other words, if it doesn't match the ordinance. Now, the rezoning part, politics and public opinion is gonna come into play on that.
Right.
So that's a little bit different ballgame. I'd refer to that to the city attorney, not to put you on the spot. But as far as the process, they filled out the application, they've requested these letters. My past experience has, I felt necessary that these letters got passed to you guys. Typically, things come up on a consent agenda. Hey, just so you know, this is what's going on. It's up to you all to pull them off or not. We're not gonna call you 24/7, hey, this is going on, this is going on, this is going on. We put in a packet for you guys to review. So if you wanna pull it off, that's your prerogative. You pull it off, you ask, and we tell you. But the process is still the same. It has to go through the publication, the posting of the sign, the letters get mailed out, and the public hearing. And then once that's done, once it's approved through planning and zoning or denied through planning and zoning, it doesn't matter. Either way, it goes before you guys and a public hearing. So there's numerous steps that the city has to go through. Public has more than enough opportunity to attend and be notified, and you guys should have more than enough opportunity to be notified. I've got 17 copies sitting in my office of the project, but it's not that time to disperse those, because the first meeting doesn't take place till November. So, that's the process.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry. I want to make sure I kind of hit all the i's and t's, or he starts yelling at me.
Any other questions on this item?
That just makes the citizens sitting here more aware of what's going on too, so.
Right.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? We'll call the roll, please.
Alderman Warner,
Yes.
Alderman Jones,
Yes.
Alderman Norman,
Yes.
Alderman Dooner,
Yes.
Alderman Deacon,
Yes.
Alderman Lyford,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Item M, discuss proposal for Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission municipal agreement. I've got the agreement in there. I hope you got a chance to kind of look through it. This is in relationship to the Highway 47 overpass. This is standard procedure that MoDOT goes through, basically getting permission from us to use our roads in the way they see fit. Of course, they'll give us notification and do some updates and things, but as they go through that project, they're gonna have to detour a lot of the traffic that would normally run on 47 or ramp on or off there to other areas in order to access the highway. So I'm looking for someone to sponsor this. It'll have to be passed as an ordinance. You'll do that, read through it. If you all see anything in there or have any questions about it, we'll try to answer them now, but talk with the area engineer on it. It's a pretty basic agreement. We signed one very similar to it when they did the South Lincoln overpass and the roundabouts. I have a copy of that one that we could, I could let anybody have if they wanted. But if you see anything in there that is troubling or you have questions about, shoot me an email, I'll get it to the area engineer and we'll find out,
Do we have alternate routes set up?
They do, yeah. I mean, they will develop an elaborate plan of phased construction and move traffic the entire time. Now, the majority of the traffic is gonna have to get off at South Lincoln a lot during this process. So they're gonna bring them up Lincoln Drive. Right now, they have a plan to put a temporary light in at Lincoln and Monroe, right at the park, so that the traffic coming up Lincoln Drive will be regulated by a light. They'll take the stop sign out here at Capitagray, so there wouldn't be any other stop between there and Cherry Street, in order to keep that traffic moving, especially at school time, so you don't have any congestion back up there. But that's just part of the things that they know now that they're going to be doing.
Traffic on Old Capitol is getting ridiculous, so additional traffic would be a nightmare.
I understand. It's gonna be a very painful year-long process when they take that bridge out. There's no two ways. I mean, it pales in comparison, Cherry Street pales in comparison to this, and it was a painful project. It's gonna inconvenience a lot of people. It's just gonna be a traffic nightmare. But it's got to be done, and it's gonna be a boon to the town once that overpass is finished. So they had planned to go out to bid in January. It looks like it's gonna get rolled back. They've got some easement issues or getting some pushback from some people, but still, it's gonna be a wonderful addition to this town. But it's gonna hurt. So we do have to pass this by ordinance, get someone to sponsor that. If not, I'd be glad to do it. We'll get it in ordinance form, get it on for next month. But let's give you some time to go through it and figure out if there's anything in particular that you don't like about it.
I guess East Highway 47 traffic will be running past the hospital, Cherry Street.
They're gonna divert a lot of it that way. The plan is they'll always have one lane. They think about 3 days on each side, they'll have nothing there, but most of the time they're gonna have a lane open, crossing the highway, either east or west during the process. I think that's what they've got in mind. But it'll be one lane at a time, so there's gonna be times there'll be no eastbound, there's gonna be times there'll be no westbound, so.
You're right, it's gonna be painful, but it's past due.
Yep. Okay. Alderman Norman has agreed to sponsor that, so you get it in ordinance form, I don't think there's a lot, but certainly if you see anything in there that's of concern to you, if you'd like to tweak, we'll run it by the area engineer and see what we can do with it, so. Any other questions on that one? Now we'll go to item M. We'll set a date for a workshop to discuss the city administrator recruitment process. So, we have, I think any time in November, early part would give us plenty of time to get the invitations out. What does the first Monday look like? That would be, we could do a workshop that day if that would work for people. We normally hold that day as a possible meeting day, but it would work for a workshop as well.
We're talking evenings, right?
Yes.
November 6th.
Yeah. Alderman Leifert's not gonna be in town. What date would work for you?
The following week.
Okay, so like the 13th?
We're talking evening, correct?
Yes, yeah, we'd probably plan on a 6:30 meeting as well, or, it's a workshop, we can set it for 6. I mean, we're not bound by rules on a workshop, so. Unless any objections to 13th?
13 sounds good. I'm not that week.
Well, that's deer season.
It's tentative.
Okay,
I have surgery on this.
Oh, okay,
So
well,
I
I
was-
would make the sixth though, for sure.
For sure, would be the sixth.
Okay,
Can we go with the Monday prior?
But the 13th might.
that was,
That was the,
October.
that was the day of her surgery.
That's-
Oh, I think it was 31st, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, but the 30th, I would.
Okay.
How about the first? That's a Wednesday. Of November.
You're not gonna do it. I don't know, we got that.
Alderman Decamper would be out, from the 30th on to possibly to the 13th, before she'd be available.
What about October 23rd? Is that our regular meeting already?
The 16th would be our regular October meeting, so that'd be the week after. How does that?
I can't do the 23rd.
Extension.
Yeah, I have extension.
Uh,
Can we do it on, how about November, like 16th? That's a Thursday.
I won't be here then.
I was gonna say,
Alderman Horner can't do that day.
I'll be in Illinois.
Gary, you could do the 6th, correct?
He said,
No.
The
When do you
13th
come
would be
back?
fine. So the who can't do it on the 13th?
Who can't do the 13th?
I can probably do it.
All right, 13th, Mayor.
13th it is.
everybody good with November 13th?
Yep.
6 p.m. Does that not work?
I think it'll be okay. Veterans Day is that Saturday, so offices will be closed that Friday before, but we will start them, on the 13th.
Okay,
Fine.
that's a Thursday night,
Oh,
right?
We're back on
Back to Monday, sorry. Okay, all right. November 13th, we'll tentatively set it at 6 o'clock.
okay.
We'll get some invitations out. Okay, item O, discuss and approve personnel guidelines, section 300-8, minimum call-in time. This will be a citywide policy and handbook. Had some discrepancies. We're trying to get something that's uniform and easily followed and have reference to it. Be a 2-hour minimum call-in time. So if you have to call in for a water main break and it turns out it's just somebody's sump pump, you know, you get 2 hours. If it took you an hour to drive down and go check it out and get back, you get you 2 hours. If it's over 2 hours, you get paid for whatever it is. Can I get a motion on this?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
What's standard in other towns?
2 hours.
That's standard in construction too.
Is it?
Yeah. Whoever got called out, got the water.
Any questions, comments? Call a roll, please.
Alderman Lyford,
Yes.
Alderman Norman,
Yes.
Alderman Horner,
Yes.
Alderman Jones,
Yes.
Alderman Dooner,
Yes.
Alderman December,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Item P, discuss and approve. Any discussion, questions?
Alderman Horner,
Yes.
Alderman Norman,
Yes.
Alderman Dooner,
I don't vote, I'm president, but I don't get paid. I think it's volunteer position. Okay, yes.
Alderman Jones,
Yes.
Alderman December,
Yes.
Alderman Lyford,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to go into closed session for legal and real estate, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Alderman Dooner,
Yes.
Alderman Jones,
Yes.
Alderman December,
Yes.
Alderman Lyford,
Yes.